Brace Belden, co-host of the progressive podcast, TrueAnon Pod, or whatever the hell it's called, is actually a bloodthirsty, war hawk, bigot, Nazi piece of crap. And just want to show you some documentation about that. First of all, obviously, anything connected with the word anon or anonymous is obviously directly connected to the U.S. government. That is obvious. I mean, going back to Weave, the Daily Stormer's Weave, working with Occupy Wall Street as a Fed infiltrator, up till this podcast today. And I know you're saying, this guy's crazy or whatever. No, it's going to be pretty clear what this person is. So Brace went to Syria to fight with the Kurds, with the YPG, a few years ago. And if you don't know much about that, what happened was, obviously, Syria is illegally occupied by Israel. They're sort of enemies with Israel, but they're not at war or anything like that. They're allies with Iran. They're an important ally with Iran. And just because of that, they're allies with Iran and enemies with Israel, of course, they support the Palestinians, and they're, part of the Palestinian resistance against ethnic cleansing and genocide taking place in Palestine by the Israeli quote-unquote government. Now, Brace is a big supporter of this. He's not going to say this. He acts as though he's a radical left-wing progressive, as all of these Nazis do, but he is in fact right-wing. He is in fact to the right of Obama and Hillary, and he's just a bloodthirsty bigot. And again, this will show you what I'm talking about. So years before Brace went to Syria, because Brace specifically went to Syria to kill Arabs, to kill Muslims, because he's a Jewish man and he's just fueled by bigoted hatred, and he actually believes the things that the U.S. government and Israeli government tell him, and this is who he is. So he played in a punk band many years ago, I think around 2009 in San Francisco, and the band's name was War Crime. Now, this is not information Brace wanted shared. Someone back from that time who knew him in that band sort of posted about this on the internet. This is not information he wanted to get out. But War Crime, it actually had a write-up by a music critic, and the music critic described War Crime's music as pro-Israel, pro-war, and anti-Arab. Now, if you're an American, if you're sort of a normie, that's fine. That's Fox News, MSNBC, all these, New York Times, Washington Post, whatever, your local papers, they're all supportive of Israel and stuff like that. But we know it's lies. We know it's genocide taking place. We know it's ethnic cleansing. We know Israel is a rogue terrorist state. They have illegal nuclear weapons. Israel has nuclear weapons. They're not under any sort of UN regulation or control, and yet we have economic sanctions against Iran because we say they want to get nuclear weapons, which is just obvious hypocrisy. And this is the sort of stuff that our media will never mention. It'll never talk about. So, again, if you're a normie, support for Israel, whatever, that's fine. If you're a part of the progressive left, if you're part of the radical left, of course, that Israel, like the U.S., is a rogue terrorist state. Everything they say is a lie, and they are, in fact, have been engaged in ongoing ethnic cleansing / genocide since all of us have been born, pretty much. I mean, unless you're as old as MIT's Noam Chomsky, you pretty much your entire life you've been watching this ethnic cleansing unfold. Now, Brace is very supportive of it, as I say, and why? Because he hates Muslims, he hates Arabs. And so a music critic writing about War Crimes music described it as I said, anti-Arab, pro-Israel, and pro-war. Now, Brace was the lead singer of the band, and he stood in front of the flag of Israel. And, he had a Star of David tattoo on his hand and stuff like that. And again, he was just singing this putrid, racist, bigoted hatred against Arabs and Muslims and stuff while promoting Israel. Now, today, see, the people who listen to Brace, they're fascist. And we'll get more to that later. Liz or whatever is co-host, I've seen her, like, just a little research, she pushes the white supremacist Assange as a hero and stuff. So I mean, they're Nazis, but they don't like the stigma of being fascist. They don't like the stigma of being Nazis. So they portray themselves as something else. It's a very simple con. I mean, it's basically the roots of this con go back to the Kochs with their Cato Institute and the whole libertarian movement with, oh, hey, we're the peaceniks. We're actually the peace party, when really they're the worst bigot, they're the most inhuman monsters, libertarians, And it's basically the same con. It's to pretend you're a progressive, pretend you're a leftist, because look, the world doesn't need another Rush Limbaugh. You know what I mean? The people who listen to Rush Limbaugh are convinced. They don't need any convincing. If you're a right-wing billionaire, if you're an oligarch and you want to sway public opinion, you're going to prop up these people who are able to infiltrate the left circle and move people to the right. And that's with Brace and Chapel Trap and Greenwald. That's all they do. Assange. That's all they do. Manning. These people are all fascists. They're all right-wing. So now, all the people that listen to Brace's show today will tell you that was a satire, that war crime was a satirical band. And again, this isn't information Brace wanted to get out. Someone from back in the day just said, oh, hey, he used to be in this band called War Crime. Boom. Some people, my comrades and stuff, went with this and looked into it and have been posting about it, informing people about it. The people on Brace's end want it buried, they want it forgotten, and basically it will be forgotten. They say that it's satire, that it was, you don't get it, he was making fun of right-wing, they were making fun of the right-wing punk scene, because if you don't know, I mean, the whole punk scene from Johnny Rotten, they're all Nazis. They're all Nazis, and a lot of them were propped up by the, Western governments, UK, US governments. And, but it's bullshit. And the reason it's bullcrap is because 7 years after his band broke up, 7 years after War Crime broke up, this satirical right-wing punk band that was supposed to be making fun of, pro-Israel movements, like that's such a, like someone would do that. Anyway, but 7 years after that, he was making tweets on his Twitter account, now suspended Twitter account, about how Arab men are the worst smelling men on the planet, and how Islam is intolerant and this and that, and you can just see like the bigotry and hatred just dripping from his posts, that this is obviously a racist, this is obviously a bigot. And so this was 7 years after the band broke up. And yet his fans and him will look you right in the eye and say, oh, no, that was a satirical right wing. He was making fun of that. So he's basically Kaufman-esque that 7 years after his band broke up, he was still making this joke. Nope. That's 100% untrue. It's that he was just a little Nazi bigot and never expected to be given a platform in the progressive left, because why the heck would he ever think that was going to happen? Little did he know. And, I mean, just to give you an idea, his Twitter handle right now, because that's his old suspended account, his new Twitter handle is called Slam Pig, which is, it's slang basically for an unattractive woman that you would only have sex with if you were drunk. So that's his Twitter handle, is Slam Pig. So you can tell right away that he's a left-wing progressive. And this is why, the DSA left, they embrace him because he's so progressive, because his Twitter handle is Slam Pig. He makes racist jokes about Arabs, and again, I love the thing, like his bigotry and his hatred of Islam is, think of Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was a Muslim. Can you think of like any human being in history like more admirable than Muhammad Ali and his stance on the Vietnam War and stuff like that? Well, he don't like Muhammad Ali because, as we know, Brace Belden loves war, as his music always says. So anyway, fast forwarding to the serious stuff, the progressive left is, embraces Brace Belden as a hero for going to an Arab country illegally occupied by Israel, illegally occupied by the United States, illegally occupied by Turkey, and specifically to kill Arabs and Muslims. That's what he was there for. And he was fighting alongside U.S. Marines. There's an article, there's a write-up in Rolling Stones where he talks about how they would call in U.S. airstrikes on their tablets. And just unironically, these people in the DSA and Glenn Greenwald promote this idiot as a hero, and as a left-wing, just this guy is great. He needs his voice amplified, and he's just a murderous, bigoted Nazi. And when I say Nazi, I guess I mean like more American Nazi, because that's what people always. But he's Jewish. Yeah, white supremacists, American Nazi, white supremacist, the way Ron Paul is a Nazi, the way Glenn Greenwald is a Nazi, which, by the way, we'll have a nice long episode about Greenwald coming up real